Hello, and welcome back to Hearts of Iron 3 with the Black Ice submod. And in this brand new series, I will be playing as Great Britain, the country of my birth. And as you can see, I am playing on version 10.3 with the new Naval overhaul mod. And I can demonstrate that with the sheer amount of destroyers I've got and the fact that I can build command battleships and command carriers. Now, I had a little read through the patch notes, just to get a grasp of, I guess, a bit of background of the mod, the changes. It's all rather interesting. The naval overhaul seems especially interesting. So, we're going to go through that sort of step by step. Technology-wise, they've done some work with the Doctrines tree, because, as you probably noticed in my Germany campaign, you can just do whatever the hell you want when it comes to Doctrines. You could research all of it, regardless of what nation you were, whereas I think they've taken the more Hearts of Iron 4 approach, where it's more sort of independent. If you're a certain nation, you're going to have a certain type. So we've got the Grand Battle Plan Doctrine, which isn't the best from what I can tell. I'm quite the fan, actually, just reading these, of the German one, because it gives you a lot of bonuses. Oh my god. Although that in of itself is not a great one, that tech. But yeah, the British one is quite slow, let's put it that way. But you do get the ability to decrease the amount of time it takes before you can attack, so there are swings and roundabouts, positives and negatives. With the trees. So, following on from that, Britain. I've played the United Kingdom a few times on Hearts of Iron 3. I played it on version 8 point something. Or was it? It was either 8 point something. It was the one where they took out carrier planes. I can't remember which version that was. And it was a bit strange, to be honest. It was good, but it wasn't the most fun I've ever had. I quite like my carrier planes. But I really like playing as Britain. I'd say that if I was to rank the countries I like playing as Germany, then I like playing as the Soviets, and then I like playing as Britain. Countries I hate playing as are the USA, and I really don't like playing China, because I find it an absolute slog. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to playing this. Now, I've started the game on sort of the main screen, and I think my cursor's still not showing. I'm hoping it's showing because there's been another NVIDIA graphics update. But if it's still not showing, I do apologise. I'm not the only YouTuber that's having this problem. Galu from DAC is having this trouble at the moment on his series. So let's sort out some of our basic stuff. So let's get my usual spread set up, and then let's have a look at where we got the most spies in. Yeah, so we've got the most spies in sort of a wide variety of countries. I'm going to hold off on my spies at the moment, and let's go have a look at politics. So we have King George V, who is a stern imperialist. I would not expect any different. And then we have Stanley Baldwin, who we can replace as head of government. And we can replace the head of state. I'm not going to muck around with that because there's an event, and I feel like that's a bug. You're not allowed, are you? Is that a bug? That might be a bug. I haven't tested this to see how stable it is, so I'm just going to leave that there. So, Neville Chamberlain is our armaments minister. Who does give us the -5% good peacetime. Is there anyone that's better? I am a fan of leadership. No, I don't think there's anyone that's necessarily better at the moment. Can make an argument for either Sir John Simon or Winston Churchill, but no, I'm not going to go for that. Minister of Security is Sir John Simon. Happy with keeping him in place because he gives us the ruling party support. Montgomery Mazinbird. I'm not interested in him particularly. I think we'll put Lord Gort in command, because he gives us a mobile unit decrease on the practical decay. And the supply consumption decrease is always positive. And then we're going to go for... Ooh. Yeah, I think Owen Boyd is fine for the moment. Now, can we create any puppets? We can. I don't know about what you guys think on whether or not it's worth me creating any puppets. Or just keeping, you know, units. I'm a fan of puppets in this game, if you create the right ones. Because they can help hold things down. So I'll have a think on that. And then we'll decide what we want to do. So, decisions. Now, let's do the mixed support brigades first. So, I am going to take anti-tank, artillery, engineers, and recon, because I find those to be the most useful. And then for motorized, we're going to also take anti-tank, artillery, engineers, and recon. And we're done. Now, we will trigger the 1936 star, and I will play this on normal, but when I select the difficulty settings, I will put China on normal, I will put the Italians on normal, I will put the Japanese on hard, and I will put the Germans... Oh, no, these are individual... Okay, so the French I'm going to put on easy. I'm going to put the Americans on normal, and I'm going to put the Germans on... How much do I want to buff the Germans? I mean, that seems ridiculous. A 65% national manpower modifier. Let's make them hard. Well, hey. And Eastern Front, let's make the Soviets normal. Okay, let's just shut that and get it to re-establish. Annual national focus. We're going to go for the economy and build a manufacturing plant. And yeah, this is the new trading resource system. They've added in new resources as part of that, that go beyond, I think, our basic stuff. And then leader backstory. Let's go through this. So, sounds good. Let's get started. She was a political negotiator. He was a respected and intellectual professor. I think we're going to go for... Well, they've changed the decreases. I'm a fan of the intellectual route, so we will take that. We're going to have a decent amount of manpower gain. So let's go for that one. And I think we're going to become a sailor, because we're playing as Britain and I love the Navy. The main reason I love playing as Britain is because you get to look at all these cool ships, like the Nelson, the Rodney, the Resolution, the Vermilies. But there she is, the Hood, the pride of the British fleet. It's not going to get sunk this time round. And then what have we got in the south? Where's Warspite? There's Warspite. This ship is one of the most amazing ships in all of the British, history. It is amazing. Its service record is amazing. If you ever get a chance to look at it, please do. But we've got a lot of battleships, and a lot of them aren't the best. Don't worry about that saying 1960. Apparently that's a part of the mod. Okay, and a new day has indeed dawned, and we have gotten ready to rumble. Okay, Okay, brilliant. Now, some of the colorations and things might be a bit different. The main reason for that is I'm not running the German graphical augment mod in this game. And let's put time on ×5. And let's see if the game crashes. It didn't crash. And you know what? I'm going to automate trade, because as Britain we don't need to worry about it as much. Okay, we've got some issues with supply and things in Egypt. We've got a couple of things built. And there we go, we've got a whole bunch of resources and things now. So they've really expanded the amount of supply text. The only thing that I question with doing this is it going to start making it ridiculously buffed? Because it seems like it could. So I'm not sure about that. Now, radios we will definitely get. Construction, industry, airplace blueprints. Yep. Don't care about rocket tests. We can get a lot of text going, can't we? That's really good. Let's get that back down to 4. And I'm not going to influence any nations yet. I'm just going to let it be for now. Let's see how much we've got by the way of leadership to play with once I set this to 1 spy a day. So 829 for 1 spy a day. Okay. Get some more artillery tech, heavy AA guns, AFT tracks, and suspension, high density alloy, and pre-war armor construction. And you know what? We'll have a look at what carrier techs and things we can get. So catapults, open hangar, closed hangar. Are they mutually exclusive? Okay, so closed hangar. Hangar is built as part of the main structure and is closed from all sides. Okay, so I think, historically, the Brits went for... I know the British had armoured flight decks, whereas the Japanese and the Americans did not have armoured flight decks. So, open hangar carriers gets you access to carrier CAG size plus 0.1. Closed hangar safety procedures gives you better hull morale. And double hangar requires closed hangars. And that gives you carrier CAG size as well. So that offsets the decrease that you receive on that one there. Okay. Because we've already got the deck armor optimization. And it decreases our carrier CAG size by 25. So maybe we shouldn't go with closed hangar. You know what? Let's grab that one. Things, if you go that way, you seem to get more options. That's a major increase. We can get both, can't we, at this level? You probably can just do both, can't you? Let's do both and then see what happens. It might end up that one completes before the other one, but oh well. And I'm going to leave 10 in there. And we've managed to now get ourselves a whole bunch of supply going. That's very good. We've got a whole bunch of upgrades going. Now, the way that I play Britain is I normally create expeditionary forces for everywhere. So I have the FEF, I have the EEF, Egyptian Expeditionary Force. I have the NEF, which is the Norwegian Expeditionary Force. I have expeditionary forces ready to go everywhere and to fight the Germans and Italians in every theatre. I normally create a relatively basic militia-based army for use in the Sudan / Abyssinian Ethiopian front. And I did send troops to help them, so I hope they appreciate some extra support. We'll keep an eye on how that battle goes. And let's make sure we get our upgrades dealt with. Oh, actually, it probably makes more sense just bunging it into our production for now. Because we can always come back to the upgrades. The quicker we get our production done, really, the better. Like those, for example, we can just finish now. So we've built some more submarines. HMS Sunfish. So, good names. Okay, so it's 104 IC required to run our production queue at full stilt. There we go. And we've still got 10 left over to run a bit of upgrade work. So we've got... So yeah, some of the changes to 10.3 are that we don't see destroyer flotillas or submarine flotillas anymore. They are individual flotillas. And in fact, I might as well combine them because, yep, they're all submarines, some of which are bloody slow. Frick. Max speed 7.25 kilometers. Might as well scrap them. Oh, shocking. What about you? Okay, well these ones are slightly better, but they're, I mean, it's slightly better in the same way that anything is slightly better than what they're looking at. Like, fuck. Right. So, I am from the southern area of the UK. I know some of these landmarks that they show on these pictures. I know some of them quite well. But I am looking forward to playing this one through. Do it in some of my bad English slang can get involved. Okay. So most of them were done by August of 1936. Right, and the game didn't crash, so that's good. And there we go. So we've got a whole bunch of events. Whole bunch of events. So, budget reserves. Our budget is settled. We are aware of potential expenses and the amount of money we need to keep in reserve. Need to be careful from now on. So, what did we go for in Britain? The Royal Navy and Kriegsmarine used Krupp cemented steel, which is probably the best armour available at the time. So, this one then. That's good. Part of me doesn't want revolts. I'll leave that one to the end. Yeah, why not? Okay, so the anti-tank for motorised support brigades. It's time to decide what sort of anti-tank weapon we use in our motorised support brigades. Our focus should be on heavy anti-tank guns. We will use an artillery focus, military vehicles. We've got the Bedford 15 CWT truck. In 1935, Bedford began development of a 15 CWT truck for the British War Office. God, 66,000 nearly examples have been built by the end of World War II. Oh, that's amazing. Royal Ordnance Factory Leeds, and I don't know. I just really don't care. I mean, getting minus 50% money is a really big debuff. So, I'm partial to not having revolts because of that debuff. Because I just find the revolt system a ball ache. Because if I get a revolt in Sudan just here, it's going to be one stupid partisan unit just going between these rubbish places. It doesn't actually do anything. And there are certain scripted revolts that will trigger anyway. Like there's one in Palestine that will trigger, regardless of me picking this or not. So, you know, like in India, for example, if you get revolts, it just, you know, you're just sending one unit to go kill a single unit of partisans in the arse end of nowhere. I just don't think it's worth it. So I'm not doing that. Feel free to tell me if you think I'm wrong, but I'm not up for it. I did revolts for Germany and it didn't have any real major difference. I was able to deal with them quite easily. So, let's have a little look at this. In armour, we have gasoline engines, and our casting is the highest ranked tech at the moment. So, we're going to go for heavy aircraft, because we're Britain. Heavy aircraft, gasoline engine, cast armour. I think sounds the best. And we will allow those scripted invasions. We'll take personality effects. Hopefully we'll get some interesting Churchill things. We'll do that. And we'll go for artillery. And the USA gets a little buff there. Not sure why that pops up for everyone, considering the USA is the only one that gets a buff. And we're building up our spy base very quickly. We've managed to have one of our blueprints stolen, but hopefully that won't be too much of a problem. And the Second London Naval Treaty. So, this was Britain's attempt to try and get everyone to play by the rules. But when you're dealing with fascists, no one plays by the rules. So the conference started on the 9th of December 1935 and the treaty was signed by participating nations. That's the key thing. So the signatories were France, the United Kingdom, and the USA. The problem is with having this sort of treaty is you're limiting your own firepower while not limiting that of Germany, Italy, or Japan, who would be your principal enemies. So it was a rather stupid, you know, I mean a novel idea, but not really effective. For some strange reason it still triggers twice. I don't know why it does that. But it does mean we're up to nearly 90% national unity at the beginning of the game, which is very good. Oh. No money for seamen. I'm not even going to make the joke. So I think this is part of the new economy minigame that is in the game almost. I'm not going to pay 900. That seems really high. It doesn't seem very balanced. You know, you're playing the game in March 1936, and, you know, sure, you could have 900, but then you'd have that wiped out immediately. So I'm going to say no, because at the moment it doesn't matter if I have a decrease in certain things. We don't love Stalin. Okay, and we're still, even with that descent change, we're still in a pretty good position. So an Aboriginal has requested Aboriginal rights and representation in the Australian federal government. In his petition, the Australian government has forwarded to us. I don't know what historically happened. We've gained one unity as a result of Churchill. I mean, I'm going to deliver it purely because I think it makes sense to. I think that's all the motorized support elements finished. We're nearly halfway there now towards getting our ships all out. Looks like we lost the unity there. Right. So, this was a pretty major event in British history at this time. The death of King George V. King George V of the United Kingdom passed away on the 20th of January 1936. King George was an active king on both the political and social economic fronts. The Irish Free State was set up under his rule in 1922, and he played a conciliatory role during the 1926 general strike. Perhaps the most noteworthy legislation enacted under his reign was the Statute of Westminster 1931, which made it possible for Dominion parliaments to pass their own laws without royal assent from London, which made the British, at the moment, if in the UK, Brexit's going on, this is a good example, if we want to pass a law in the UK, the government will create a bill that will be voted on by MPs. If it passes there, it will go to the House of Lords, where it can be challenged and amendments can be put forward from the House of Lords. They have no power to block it, generally, but they can push it back to the House of Commons, which is where our MPs reside, who represent our areas. So, for example, you can have several MPs elected from this area to represent each borough/council or town. This is probably the easiest way for me to put it. And then they all vote on it. But in this particular case, once a law has been agreed by the House of Commons and it's been agreed and gone through the House of Lords, it will go to the Queen, or King in this case, for royal assent, which means that the Queen or King has to sign off on that particular law. Now, because of the way that our monarchy works, it's a constitutional monarchy and the Queen has no real power. So the Queen is expected to do as the government asks. If a bill is passed by the MPs, the Queen has to sign and give royal assent. I mean, technically she could say no, but historically that doesn't work out so well for monarchs. But yes, and recently there was a major issue in that the Queen has to agree to do things that the executive, the government, tells her to do. And there was a problem recently with Boris Johnson, where Boris Johnson was found to be in contempt almost of the Queen, and lied to the Queen about his reasons for the proroguing of Parliament in the UK, which just means the suspension of Parliament, because he was making a big song and dance of saying that it had nothing to do with Brexit, when anyone with the faintest idea of the way the world is working at the moment could tell it was all to do with Brexit. But a lot of people were saying in this country, or why could the Queen have not just denied Boris Johnson's request? Well, it's because she can't. She has to do as the executive commands, even if the executive is wrong. because unfortunately that's what, you know, parliamentary democracy looks like in the UK. But we don't want the Queen, you know, sort of saying... We don't want the Queen not passing laws that our MPs put forward, though. But in that particular case, it's quite an interesting court judgment in the UK. So the red telephone box is one of these near my house. There's also a lot of BT ones that are grey that are still dotted about, and they're ugly as hell. Designed by Sir Giles Gilbert Scott in 1935 to coincide with the Jubilee of King George V. Sadly, King didn't live to see any such examples installed, initially known as the Jubilee Kiosk. Some 70,000 examples were installed around the UK between 1936 to 1968. I used a red telephone box in the past before, when I was a bit younger, and I didn't have a phone on me. It was a bad time. But yeah, I think they're becoming an extinct thing, actually. Right, so we just had the civil defence tick up. Looks like we've just lost some leadership a minute ago. But yes, this might be a little bit of a political series because unfortunately I am not a fan of the current state of British government. Right, so closed hangar, open hangar. I'm thinking we might get the 1936 CAG bomber focus. Looks like we just lost some more IC for whatever reason. We've got a fair amount of supply for us just to bung it into upgrades at the moment. HMS Glowworm was a very important destroyer, so I'm glad we're building that. Glowworm was sunk during an engagement off the coast of Norway during the evacuation of Narvik in 1940 or 39, I think it was 40, where she ran or attacked the the German battleship slash battle cruisers, or as we would call them in Britain, pocket battleships. Oh, no, wait. No, they were classified as battleships. Sorry, the Scharnhorst now. Because they sank the HMS, or I should know this, I believe it was Glorious, and Glowworm attempted to fight them off by herself. Very important battle. Also one of the most sort of horrifyingly worst British naval disasters of World War II. Incompetent leadership. Okay, that's good. Still funneling stuff into our upgrades. And the reoccupation of the Rhineland has occurred. So, once the home front was secured, Hitler turned his attention to foreign policy with four increasingly daring acts. On the 16th of March 1935, the Treaty of Versailles was violated by Germany's military conscription was reintroduced. The treaty stated that the German army should not exceed 100,000 men. When nothing more official protests from Hitler proceeded a year later to occupy the demilitarized Rhineland, again violating the Versailles Treaty, and Hitler called that his greatest gamble. And they wouldn't have been able to stop them if they'd sorted out the problem then, but they didn't. The weak British government purely saw it as Germany walking into its own backyard. And that would come back to haunt an entire generation, sadly. Right, so we're going to get onto planes in a minute. Oh no, we're all in 1937 anyway. Perfect. Brilliant. So I can go straight to armament. So 1936 tech there for machine gun focus that we'll do soon. And we just hit 100 spies. Finish that. Right, so let's get the machine gun focus. They've often been referred to that machine guns the British were using in the early war were pea shooters. And there we go. So we have the Palestinian rebellion that's taking place. We're going to move out the 1st Cavalry Division to deal with it. We've got up to bomb load next. If there's one thing we were very good at doing during World War II, it was designing bombs. Like the Tall Boy, the Grand Slam, the strongest non-nuclear bombs available. And the game sort of froze up a little bit there. And we will do the RAF reorganization, and yeah, that does generate some HQs. So we've got RAF Bomber Command, and we can attach that to Home Command. RAF Fighter Command, which we can attach to the Home Command. And I think there's another one, isn't there? No. Could have sworn there was another RAF command. Oh, yes, sorry. An RAF Coastal Command. All very important. And Edmund Ironside, one of my favourite names of British generals, although he wasn't a particularly important general during World War II. Although he did arrange, I believe, for the Dad's Army / Home Guard to be created. And that's a whole bunch of supply production technologies that have just come up. So we can get incendiary bombs. And controllable propeller pitch. We're very good on technology. Less so on submarine tech. But that was never a very British weapon. Too sneaky for us. Let's get the anti-sonar, or the ASW sonar work. Anti-submarine warfare technology going. Very important to the British during World War II. 1937 there. And let's also get the small warship fire control system upgraded. So we do have Marines, I forgot about that. Got mountain warfare equipment. Where do I get mountain units? That's it. There, okay. And we'll get the next level of torpedo boat class, as well as motor torpedo boat class. Britain ran a number of patrol motor torpedo boats in the Channel during World War II. And in fact, the German dash up the Channel was a very interesting saga of when the British systems failed. Because they really should have sunk that whole flotilla. We've got the next level of infantry support weapons. We can upgrade our standard infantry. And there we go. Camouflage designs is now finished. And let's get the Special Forces branch upgrade done. And, oh yes, medicine is done as well. So that's at 1941. And that's at 1940. Oh, and that's it. We can get the African Army recruitment. Very good. Get the engines going. And we keep that industry tech rolling. And we are running out of supply. That is something that we can deal with. And I think I will call it an episode here. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this opening episode. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one, which I'll be recording immediately now. I just want to split it up into more bite-sized pieces. So once again, thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode of the UK campaign. Thanks again. Bye-bye.